the HATAE Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the HATAE Podcast with me, Benjamin Madel. Today, I'm joined by salon owner and business coach, Lily Ramsay. How are you, Lily?
I'm well. And yourself, Ben?
Yes, all good. Thank you very much. As those who listen to the podcast know, we don't like to mess around too much at the start. We'd like to get straight into it. So, Lily, how did you get into the hairdressing industry?
So I was pretty much born into the industry. Both of my parents are hairdressers. My dad is still quite heavily involved in the industry. So growing up within a salon, I very quickly discovered that passion for the industry, catering to people's needs. And I've just flourished ever since and maintained myself in the industry. I've got a salon now myself, and I'm just constantly evolving. And I love this industry. It's a massive passion of mine.
So you knew from very early on that it was an industry you were going to get into, obviously with the influence of your parents and whatnot else. So did you go work for your parents and did you train with your parents?
So I actually trained with Tony and Guy here in Australia. My dad, he used to work alongside Vidal Sassoon and Trevor Zorby. So it was a very stern conversation when I was looking to get into the industry about where I would do my training. So I did my training with Tony and Guy. And then once I completed all of my bartering, I actually moved to Sydney to work in my dad's salon, which was incredible. That was a really intense 2 years having to work alongside your dad. But the training that I got was absolutely priceless. And still to this day, he's the first person I call for advice.
Yeah. So you got a bit of the best of both worlds, really, didn't you? Then, obviously, with the very, very technical Sassoon sorbet type of way, and sort of the more creative visual way of Tony and Guy. What made you decide to train with Tony and Guy? Was it something that your dad said to go and do, or was it something that you sought out for yourself?
No, so it was definitely something I sorted out for myself. Mentioning before, having grown in the industry, I knew who the hair giants were, and I knew who I wanted to learn from. And at that point in time, and I still believe they are one of the best in the industry when it comes to training and technical wise. That was something that I chose to go into and train with Tony and Guy.
Absolutely. And how did you find the trainings? Obviously, were you growing up within the industry and seeing what your parents were doing? Did you find it sort of was very different to what you had seen before and worked with before?
It really was. So I found I'm still really great friends with my boss who trained me at Tony and Guy. And it was quite interesting because it was extremely strict, which I loved. I thrived on. It was insane. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved having my training being really tough. I think that's what made me the hairdresser, hairstylist, and educator that I am today, very disciplined. And I recommend all apprentices to branch out, especially I've had an apprentice before and I've actually navigated them through to a city salon. So I think that really did shape the way that I am today as a person in this industry.
Absolutely. It's very important, isn't it, to get those formative years right. I think if you don't get those right, you're in big trouble from the start. You know,
Absolutely.
you're playing catch up. You know,
yeah, you are. And you know, they teach something so simple, for example, as like a blow dry or a blowout these days. Not many people actually know how to do a proper blowout, where that was such and still is a really solid part of their training and education.
Yeah,
they, you know, gone are the days back then, no one really used flat irons and wands and tongs and everything like that. It was all actually with a blow dryer and a brush, and that's what I loved. It was very much a craft and an art, and it still is, but that's the reason I chose Tony and Guy, was for the strict reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. You say you sort of went back. Did you move away as well to do your training?
So I did my training here, like on the Gold Coast, and then in Brisbane. And then once I finished with Tony and Guy, I actually moved to Sydney to be in my dad's salon. But I did visit the Sydney Tony and Guy head office in Paddington to do photo shoots. That's where I would do all of my own photo shoots.
How did you find that transition? And so you've gone work with Tony and Guy, you've done the training and whatnot, then moved back working with your dad. You know, how was that sort of dynamic working out?
It worked really well. So I was trained as a technician, color technician, and my dad is he cuts. He started out his career as a barber and then went on to obviously women's cutting. So it actually worked beautifully. So he definitely polished my skills, I'll say that, and understanding, because obviously Tony and Guy was very, rigid. They've got their collections that come out and everything like that, where dad still is very much of, he's that little bit more fluid. So I got to understand more about, working with hair, like the haircut. So how we would work was almost the opposite. Dad would cut first and then I would color after it based on the hair cutting. So it was definitely a brilliant way of learning and a completely different way of learning. But I definitely had those really strong foundations backing me in that color knowledge. So it was great. It was nerve-wracking working alongside him. I hadn't worked professionally alongside him before. But yeah, no, it was one of my favorite times. I love it. And
That's great.
we definitely still bounce off each other to this day on different projects that's in the works.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant, isn't it? So how long were you there then? You went back to see you worked at your dad's shop. How long were you there? And then where did you go after that?
So I was there for 2 years with dad. And then he became unwell, and closed his salon. And at that point in time, my career was put on hold for personal reasons. I started a family. And then I opened, it would have been, I don't even like to say I was out of the industry because I was still very much like watching and training and everything like that. But then I went on to importing brands that weren't within Australia at that time through an online platform, a website, store, and I had 6 niche brands. So and the reason that all this came about was I was trying to find a way to stay within the industry, but still being a mum of 2 young children at that time. So one thing that I love and I constantly do is I look for gaps in the market. So what I did was I opened a website store which was called Hide Hair Care, which is now the name of my salon on the Gold Coast. And I created the virtual stylist, which was a global first. Unfortunately, I couldn't patent it, which was quite sad, but each to their own. And that was insane. That was definitely a moment for me where the idea came from, I don't like shopping online myself when it comes to beauty products and makeup and everything like that. So I tried to mimic what a consultation was like in salon to do that online for those people that were not familiar with what type of shampoo and conditioner they wanted. So that's what I created. So that's where I went after working in a salon. And that worked really well. It made media, it was incredible. I got to learn more about not being in the salon side, but the product knowledge and like importing and exporting and things like that. And then we worked with a brand that's quite big in the States called Lemonhead L.A. And that went viral when Beyonce did that at Coachella, wore that at Coachella. So then we brought that into Australia. And then I kind of took a little bit of another step back for a few years without in the salon and still working on the website. I will say I broke it. I broke the website.
Yeah.
That was a really fun learning curve for myself. As
Yeah.
you and I have spoken before, and I'm always so honest with what works, what doesn't. There's no fluffing with myself. And then I had my third child, 3 and done. And then I jumped into opening my own business.
Yeah. So that was it. So you still kept very active in the industry,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
100%. I made sure that I was still extremely active in the industry. I could never see myself leaving the industry,
Yeah.
but I definitely love educating myself and pushing my own boundaries and saying, okay, so I've navigated, being on the floor, which I love. And regardless of whatever way my career takes, I will always maintain some aspect of being on the floor working with my clients because they are the inspiration for my next step forward. I do follow their guidance, but there's definitely different avenues now that this industry is taking me to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very interesting. It's brilliant to hear because so many people, I think, certainly, see it. Maybe you are just doing hair in the hair industry, be it session work, be it salon work, be it working from home,
Yeah.
mobile and whatnot. And it shows that there's so many other avenues you can take your expertise,
Yeah.
around, and it's fabulous. especially like you say, as sort of someone having young children and whatnot, it's still being able to keep involved, still being able to keep pushing and doing what you're doing. So,
Exactly.
at what point did you decide then it was time to open up the salon, or start out on your own again?
I I was working in a salon at the time, and I was only working 2 days a week. At that time, my third child was 7 months old. So 2 days a week for me was great. And when I found that it was really just kind of like a gut feeling and a bite the bullet, I was like, you know what? I don't want to work for anyone else. I had a vision in mind, and where this salon, which is where my salon is now, is located, I could see the potential and the growth. So when I found out that that previous owner was closing to go do hair from home, I thought, what, like I always offered options to her and say, we could do X, Y, and Z. There's this much potential. And I was never allowed to assist in the growth of the business. So I thought, you know what, bugger it. I'm doing it myself. And I just bit the bullet. And from before opening, I was booked out 6 to 8 weeks in advance. And it's just worked ever since, because having worked within that space, I was hearing what the clients were needing. And that's always been my guide with every other business that I've got at the moment. I just listen to what the clients and our guests are telling us. So that was the reason that I opened my salon.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. Like you say, is that key thing about being experienced in the area you're working, in the location you are, listen to see what
Yes,
goes on, because then you don't know what opportunities comes up. What sort of
exactly.
area is it you're in, just to give people a rough idea?
Yeah, so I'm located on in the Northern Rivers. So we're just across the border of the Gold Coast. So
Okay.
technically, I would say we are on the Gold Coast. I'm up in in a suburb called Terranora. So we're up in like a little bit of a hinterland overlooking the Gold Coast,
Okay.
which is beautiful. It's quiet. There's like acreage, but we actually still have people traveling to us from Brisbane, Byron Bay. One of my stylists has got a client that travels from New Zealand.
Really?
Um, yeah, so that's overseas for people. I think a lot of people confuse Australia and New Zealand because we are we are so close.
And it is a long
But
way as well. It's not just round the corner. Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
not. It's like a 3 hour flight, I'm pretty sure. So,
Yeah.
and then you've got to travel to the salon. So it's been an incredible journey. And the team that I've got in place have really supported, and they love where I want to take the salon. Do I want the salon to be an international brand? Not really. I don't. I love the salon for what it is. There's definitely areas that we are growing, but I just wanted to create a safe space for people and a place where people had that moment of self-care, and we did great hair. I'm not in this industry to be, the next big person. I just want to share and educate my experience, knowledge, and help others, whether that be clients or hairstylists.
It's refreshing to hear that as well, because then, along with the rest of your story, is so much of it now is all about trying to have the however many 100 million followers on Instagram or
Yeah,
TikTok or whatever it is. And, without really having much substance behind it, it's just being famous for famous' sake, or
that's
sort
it.
of well known, rather than sort of being very successful, but in a sort of
Yes.
more of an understated way, for want of a better phrase. And
Yeah.
it is. When you took over so I'm just confirming you took over the space that you were working in now from the
Yes.
previous owner, yeah. So did you keep all of the salon team, or did they leave, or did you
That,
bring in
that-
your own people?
yeah, so there was no team. It was the
Oh,
owner and
okay.
myself. And then I worked in the salon by myself for 4 months. And then I brought on an apprentice. She's now still with me as a senior stylist. And very quickly, I had to keep hiring because the demand was there. We couldn't keep up. The apprentice at the time, who's now my senior, her name is Ella. Her and I grew extremely quickly. We had a massive wait list. And then it's actually quite a funny story. My first senior employee, our lines have always crossed throughout life, but we'd never met. So we actually went to the same school together. I knew his partner, but we had never met. I was offered a job at his salon. So that team member, Kurt, he had his own salon. I was offered a position at his space. I declined it. And then when I was looking for someone to bring on to take over my wait list and help with my demand. And he came on with a clientele of over 1,000 when we brought over the database. So I was like, well, shit, okay. So that defeated the purpose to help me. Now I need another staff
Yeah.
member. And from there, it just kind of kept growing. But it is only a small space. We've got we had 4 stations, and I renovated to do 6. So no, I gradually grew my own team.
It's a nice way to do it, especially as well, keeping it smaller, keeping it on that size of things. Keep a lot more control over the quality and what people are
Yeah.
doing and things, can't you? It's a
Yeah.
bit like that. So how long were you in there, sort of just the two of you pottering along? And at what point did you decide that maybe I should sort of move into the coaching direction?
So the coaching area came in probably, it would have been, I started thinking about it at the beginning of the last year, so 2024. It has definitely always been an industry that I have been extremely interested in and wanted to venture into. I was just never sure what way I would coach. And it wasn't until I had my own salon that everything fell into place. So being from a color technical trained background, I was like, okay, I could teach color. There were areas that I knew that I could definitely benefit and help people with. But it wasn't until I had my own salon that I was listening to what the clients and the consumers were wanting. And I was like, you know what? There is a level here from my experience and my training with Tony and Guy, which is definitely the main point of why I started the education in the Salon Reset, was might be a bit controversial to say, but I feel the hairdressing industry is not what it is or not what it was
Yeah,
at that time.
I think
The
that's fair to
standard,
say.
the standard isn't there, the
Yeah,
service isn't there. I feel that it's definitely more heavily involved around the social media aspect and the image for your grid or your story or whatever platform you use, rather than the person in front of you. So that was when I kind of had that moment in the salon where I was never raised or trained with a social media background. I was always taught to build a clientele, humanizing the experience and relating and things like that, and getting to know who you're working with, which is how I've trained my staff. And I'm thankful that Kurt, who I work with, is of similar age. So he was trained the same way. Um, and that was definitely my penny drop moment when I was like, you know what, there is a massive gap in the market, and there are so many salons out there that you can see that are, I wouldn't say screaming for help, but the education available to hair salons was all based on technical aspects, your blondes, your cutting, upstyling. And I was like, where's the education to bring it back to basics? There's that saying that my parents always said growing up is, and when I've had children, take it back to basics, bring it back to basics, take it back to the foundation. And that was really honed into me from a young age. So that's what I pushed out with the business, because I believe without the foundations and that humanizing experience and understanding why people come to see you, why they want to rebook with you, that's something that was so important. It's not about, everyone can do a brilliant blonde if you know what you're doing correctly.
no, absolutely. I think it's quite right, and it goes back to what you say there. It's the way, I was trained that way as well. There was no social
Yeah.
media, as in, like,
No,
you do your clients, you build your client tell up through their friends, through their colleagues, through people that they
that's
see in
it.
the street,
Word of
things like
mouth,
that. Yeah, exactly. And
organic.
I've always found that far, far, far more reliable, more consistent way
Yeah.
of doing things. Is you get so many people, they go to who their friends are, and if they get on with them, they're going to get on with you, type of thing in
And
general. But
yeah,
it's
and it is that personality as well. Like when you're working, there is that saying that clients will rebook with you 70% of the time because of, the experience rather than the technique.
yeah,
You could get along so well with someone and do average hair, not that you ever want to do average
yeah.
hair, but they will come back to you. But you could provide the most brilliant color, the most brilliant haircut, and have the personality of a fish, and they won't return because they're wanting that human connection. We are one of the rare industries that we can touch people, talk to them. They speak to us about the most intimate moments of their life, whether it's a school graduation, a birth, a marriage, a death, and everything like that. And they're instantly trusting of us. So why are we not utilizing that? We're not we're definitely not gaining anything from it because it's such a personal information. And it's so confidential, but it's such a personal experience, and we are one of those rare industries that have that availability to us.
Absolutely. It's bringing the personality back to the industry, I think.
It
Because,
is.
anything through computer screens, as we are doing now, it's not the same as if we were sitting across from each other.
No.
There is
Oh,
that distance. There isn't that connect, that they're getting,
yeah.
whatever it might be, it is there.
Yeah.
It's something there. But yeah, it's very interesting that, especially now, I think that's something that certainly younger stylists, especially, I mean, with the group, with the hairdressing advice tips and education group, we see so many posts coming through every day, every
Yeah.
week, every month. I'm struggling to build my clientele. I've been on the social media.
Exactly.
We have our follow Friday section, but I'm trying to grow my following, and it's all very well and good, but you could follow me there in Australia. I'm here in
Yes.
America. Are you going to come and get your
Exactly.
hair cut? Highly unlikely, and
Exactly.
certainly not on the regular.
No, and
It's
like I love that you created that Facebook group. I think it's definitely another gap. I'm always about gap in the market. So I definitely think that a lot of people have forgotten that we're a community. I personally believe in collaboration, not competition. I work really closely with a lot of salons locally to myself. A lot of the owners, we all speak quite frequently, ask questions with each other. And so when I did come across your page, I'm like, what an amazing idea. You've got people all over the world. And it's interesting to see the patterns that are happening globally. And, going back to when you're saying, like, how can I build my following? From my perspective, what happens if social media goes down one day? Following is nothing. To me, personally, it might be a very controversial thing, but Instagram, Facebook, it's just a virtual portfolio, really. And if you don't have access to it anymore, you need to learn how to grow your business organically
Yeah, absolutely.
without the social media aspect. But no, like I think that that's an incredible group that or community, I'd rather say, that you have created, because it's really interesting. And I think it's great that we can have that opportunity to connect with people on that global platform to give tips and advice and things like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that as well. But what I see with the industry, we are very, very unlike most other industries. In fact, I struggle to think of one that's like it. I know it's this thing where we can help each other out to a point, but we're not going to give each other clients and take clients willy nilly. We'll try it, we'll help out and things like that. If you're in the building game, for instance, and you're a bricklayer, you might know a plumber, who needs to
Exactly.
come and do a plumbing job. You're not going to get that. But what I think we need to start to think about seriously as an industry is how we go about connecting and working together in order to better the whole
Yes,
thing. Is like you say,
exactly.
if one does well, we all, we should all be doing well. We should all
Yeah,
be creeping along. We all can't be charging, thousands of dollars, and we all can't be, doing this, doing that, doing the other. But what we can do is bring the average up, and we can bring the
exactly.
bottom up. And that's something that we really need to start to do big time. I think there's a big
Yeah.
wake up call going on as we speak.
There
It's
definitely,
people are starting to take notice. Say, well, hang on, we need to sort this out. Because
yeah.
how do you find in regards to getting things and it with your business?
What was that? Sorry, it just cut
How
out.
do you? That's right. How do you find getting apprentices and things like that for your business? 'Cause I know a lot of people struggle getting younger staff. They
Yeah.
struggle getting people to train. And how
So
are we going to change that?
so I actually reached out to our local TAFE. So in America, obviously the system is quite different. I reached out to our local TAFE. Sorry, I think, oh, there we go. No, I'm not sure. I think that's my smoke alarm going off. That's all right. My husband will sort it.
Yeah, that's all.
Um,
We'll cut out if it
can
gets a bit serious.
you hear that?
No, it's all good.
Oh, you can't hear it.
No,
Amazing. Okay.
yeah,
So I reached out to our local TAFE to see, if there's anyone there. And Ella at the time was a school-based apprentice, which was brilliant because she had placement at a salon that only wanted her on a Saturday, but she was so passionate, and she actually had family members in the hairdressing industry as well. So that's how I found my first apprentice. And one of my clients, which I love, so I love working and talking. I speak quite openly with my clientele, and one of them in particular owns a franchise. And I was saying to her, where we're located, no, we don't have much foot traffic and things like that. So I was like, what would you advise to find staff? I'd advertised on the business websites like Seek, and all of those hiring platforms. And she said, have you ever thought about, the good old days, put a piece of paper in your window? And I was like, okay, well, let's just see what happens there, because that's a tactic I haven't tried. And then I got thinking about it and I was like, well, hang on a second. If you think about all of your really large corporations and companies like McDonald's, I don't know if you've got a Domino's over there, it's a
Oh, yes.
pizza franchise, yeah.
Yep.
They all still do letterbox drops. They still do their internet side and their social media side, but they actually drop to the people because not everyone has social media. So that's now exactly how I do portions of advertising for my business.
Yeah.
So I did my piece of paper in the window, and within 2 days, I had about 7 resumes handed in. And I was like, that cost me nothing, where the job
Yeah.
online cost me 400 Australian dollars to
Yeah.
post. And I got CVs from overseas that were no use to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It is that thing. You can say that about McDonald's, Domino's, whoever it might be. Also, when they are recruiting, first thing you see when you walk into any of their shops or any
And they
big
win.
corporation, there it is. We're hiring.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so for me, that was another bring it back to basics moment. I was like, okay, how can I? So yes, I do. I run my salon I want to say like an old school salon. I don't really like that terminology, but I just haven't found the right words. Perhaps you could come up with an idea for me, but
Yeah.
that's definitely how I prefer to run my hair salon.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a reason why those salons still go, as well. It's because it works.
Yes. And
It might not be flashy, it might not be sexy. You can make
no,
it nice, but it works. And that's what it's there to
it
do.
does. And when it came to finding my other staff, so I think the most staff I've had was 8 staff at the time, and it was purely through word of mouth, which I think is the best form of advertisement. It shows that people are hearing what we are like as a team. We're a very open, honest, inclusive. I say there is no, BS in the salon. If we have an issue with someone, we go directly to that person. We're all adults. I have 3 children. I don't have time to micromanage. And I lay this all out really openly in the beginning. So I do believe that how I created such a larger team was through word of mouth. It was like, hey, my girlfriend came and got her hair done. She mentioned that you were looking for staff. She said that all of you in the space are great. You're honest. It's funny. It's a nice environment. She got a great vibe. Here is my CV.
Yeah.
So we've created everything organically without really looking, because I find when you're desperately looking and searching, you won't find what you're looking for.
Absolutely. You just got to relax and let it happen, haven't you, really,
You've just
sometimes?
got to let it happen. Some things are out of your control.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back then to sort of the salon reset. So what
Yeah.
services do you offer salons and hairdressers? What do you offer them?
So with the Salon Reset, so it is a it's a personalized platform program. So it's not just a one program fits all salons. So I actually go through, before we do the program, I request their percentages of their rebooking, the retention, the client visits, how many staff they've got. And I also request the services that are available in the salon and their price list. From that, I gather all the information. I have a meeting with the owner and I come up with, again, the gaps that need to be filled. So I've done this multiple times in my salon, and it just continues to grow and grow without really having to put in a lot of hard yards. It's really just being shown the areas. I don't claim to be a finance guru. I have had a business coach myself for finance, but with the Salon Reset, it is based upon the experience that clients are looking for, the psychology of sales, the environment in the salon to produce higher sales, which are all facts and percentages. I can read you some if you want. I actually do have a few that are very interesting, and
Yeah.
I'll read one of them here for you. A few things that I talk about which is a massive point in business is, what is your why? I think when people open up a business, whether it's a salon, a mechanic, or anything like that, why did you open it? What's your reasoning? And then you go into, what's your point of difference? What are you offering people that, because we are a saturated industry. So what are you offering people that they can't get down the road? Whether that is a product, a service, an experience, just something different. You need to have that point of difference. So when I first opened, for example, my point of difference was I stocked Kevin Murphy. I did my research on what was available within the area with the salons, and I knew that I wanted a high-end luxe product. That my dad taught me this trick, or this little thing, and it is called the 4 Ps. So this is how I base upon my point of difference with products. So I go for the packaging, because that is what clients are attracted to the most. And then they will smell it. So then there's the perfume, then there's the price point, and then you need it to perform. If you've got those 4 Ps, you've got a product that works, that people will continuously buy from.
Yeah.
So that was my personal point of difference opening the salon.
Yeah.
My reason why was because there was a massive gap in the market and I knew that that salon could expand completely higher than what it was.
Yeah.
Another thing I discuss is communication with your guests. It is a service, and that's a thing that I feel is missing a lot as well. You know, sit next to them when you're doing a consultation. Don't stand behind them and look in the mirror. I see so many stylists talking to themselves rather than the clients in the mirror.
Yeah.
Humanize the experience. Consultation is massive for me in the salon. We have so many meetings on consultation. We've got notice boards out the back of key questions to ask clients without confusing them, and without them also, because I feel if you ask too many questions, they then start to second guess your ability and your understanding. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. We also get too many answers. You know,
We
is
do.
I want it long but short. You know,
Uh-huh.
is that type of thing.
I
It's
want a
another.
fringe, but I don't want to blow dry it.
Absolutely, yeah. I want, I want this, but I only spend 2 minutes on my hair a month. It's
Yeah.
one of those things, isn't it? It's finding out the basic. Once again, I think it's something that we have opened Pandora's box as an industry, and we let too many people. A little bit of knowledge is a very dangerous thing. You know,
Yes.
that's the thing. We should, we don't go to the mechanic and tell him how to fix the car. We tell him what the problem might be, and he'll tell us
Yeah.
what the problem. He'll tell us what the problem is, and he'll fix it. You know,
Exactly.
that's something we need to get into as the industry. You know, as I think
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, you're quite right.
Yeah. So a couple of the questions that I are really, really basic questions that I ask my clients. And I do this with, if it's their first visit or their 10th visit, or I've been seeing them for 2 years, is because we all go through different stages of life with hormones and everything. So I always ask about like hair, like any allergies. Have you got any new allergies that's come up? Are you on any different medications? Has your lifestyle changed here in Australia, being, like your beachy, your sun and humidity and everything like that? Blondes dry out really quickly. So that's a massive service that Australians do, is your blonde hair, what their ideal result is. And then I tell them what their realistic result will be. I then create a plan. I always under promise and over deliver. I think if you
Key thing to take away that
Yeah.
people, yeah,
Yeah. Because I think if you've got someone in your chair and you're like, yep, absolutely, we can do this. That's great. It'll look fantastic. I can get you there today. It'll cost X amount. You don't know what the hair is going to throw at you. And people lie. People say, yes, I use professional products and things like that. So I always say, look, I will try to get you as close as possible, but I can't guarantee that I can get you there, but we will be closer to.
yeah.
And then at the end of it, they've gotten where they want to be. And they're like, oh my God, you've done it. And you've wowed them and things like that. But I'll get to these percentages because they are really, really exciting. Like, this is something when I was doing my research. Here they are. Put all my little pieces of paper.
Got the notes.
I've got all my notes.
Yep.
So this is about the environment area of the Salon Reset. There are very many different areas that I touch on, but this is what I believe is probably one of the most important parts. So Your environment of the space sets the tone for your clients, rebooking, your retention, the money that they're going to spend, and how long they want to spend in your salon. So there's three key factors. It is the scent, the cleanliness, and the music. Now, I always say to someone, think of a time that you've walked into a store and there, say a clothing store, and there is clothing everywhere. The music is extremely loud. You can't really focus. You can't find what you're looking for. You are going to leave. I do that. I walk out. I'm like, this place is an absolute shit show. It's in complete disarray. I'm going. Whereas if you walk into a space that is neat and tidy, it smells great, and it's organized, it is a natural stress reducer. Because instantly, if someone walks into, and it's like your home environment, people will say if your home is in chaos, your stress levels rise. So you need to ensure that your salon has a familiar scent. There is a hotel globally, and they actually have the same scent in every single hotel worldwide, because it creates that familiarity of people that travel. They're like, oh, I love this place. I know that smell. I feel at home. It's that relation.
Absolutely.
So the percentages are of scent, which is really interesting, is studies have shown that people can remember a scent with 65% accuracy after 1 year, while visual memory drops to only 50%. The smells we experience play a crucial role in how we associate with memories and places. Now, instantly, I think of those salons that, let's just say, do perming and have a really high scent with the color brand that they're using.
Yeah.
Us as hairdressers, we're like, that's a normal salon smell. But for the public, it's not pleasant.
It's what is that smell? Yeah.
What is that smell?
Yeah.
It's chemical. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. And then with the music, and this, all of these are statistics. I haven't pulled them out and just made them up. Music actually can affect your behavior by being a motivator, a timer for completing tasks, or a mood enhancer. It also impacts our shopping habits. Music is used in advertising to encourage brand recognition and create familiarity and positive association with various products. So what I'm saying this all means is you need to create the environment of your client you want to attract. Now, I have been asked this question multiple times, and people still get shocked with the answer that I give. So I've been asked, what is your dream client?
Yeah.
I say, anyone with hair. I love working with hair in general. I don't just want to work on blondes. I don't just want to cut bobs. I don't just want to work on, your vivids. I will get bored. We are creatives. We need to continually grow. And I love the one part about the industry is no day is the same. So when you're trying to attract your dream client and your social media platform is saying, all I do is blondes between the ages of 19 and 25, that's all you're going to attract.
Yeah. That is, it's where so many people go wrong with that type of thing. I always find that you can paint yourself, because I work in a very similar manner to you. I'll do everyone and everything.
Yeah.
That's the way that I
Love it.
like to do it as well. It's brilliant. But what you
It's
find
fun.
is you can paint yourself into a corner.
You
All
can.
of a sudden, I'm a copper specialist. I just do copper.
Yeah.
And then all
And
of a
you only
sudden, trends change, and all of a sudden, hang on, no, you're the copper specialist. You're the vivids. You're the vivid salon. I want like natural
100%.
blonde now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot
And
of
they don't
people,
think that they won't think that you've got the ability or the technique or the educational
yeah,
knowledge to do.
absolutely, because you've marketed yourself as a copper or a vivids or whatever it
Yeah,
might be expert, and that's all I
exactly.
do. That is all I do. And it is. And I think to be honest, I think there's a lot of people on the quiet have been caught out by that in recent times, from the vivid trends.
And this is one thing, I actually recently did an education class, so I can actually show you this because I printed this out because this is such an important topic, and I know that you and I have discussed it before. So this is just a printout that I kind of put together of a collage, and it says, what does your social media say? So I'll hold it up so you can see.
Yep.
So from there, you can see that it's showing like young vibes, shags, blondes, and
Yep.
a particular age demographic. Now, if I flip it, it says what it should say.
Yeah. We do a bit of
You've got
everything.
you've got pixies, you've got people of color, you've got men, you've got vivids, you've got mature aged women, and you've got upstyles.
Yeah.
You're
So
showing your technique, you're showing everything that you can do and that
yep.
you offer, whether you personally can't do it, but if you've got someone in your team that is an incredible at an aspect, because we all, and I think we all need to own our strengths and our weaknesses in a salon, because if you don't feel confident doing a certain service, your clients are going to appreciate you so much more with your honesty, and they'll trust and they'll continue to come back if you say, look, that is an incredible style. It will suit you, but I would actually prefer to book you in with XYZ
Yeah.
because that is their strongest point. And they will appreciate that because they're like, no one's told me that. You're not, you're not taking on something that you're not, that you can't deliver 110% on. And I personally still do that in my own business. I won't, just because I'm the owner, it doesn't mean I can do everything.
That's the other thing, isn't it? Is knowing what you're good at and being comfortable with what you're good at. You know, as
Yeah,
in, and the same in the other direction is knowing what you're not quite so good at and being comfortable with that as well. Working on it,
100%.
trying to get better at it, doing your best if you decide that's the direction you want to go. But
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, it's a very interesting thing, sort of all of that, that you've gone through. And I think a lot of salons can benefit from that. Purely because it is,
Yeah.
it's sort of bringing that back. And you're at a very, both my parents are hairdressers as well. So we both,
Yes.
grew up, we know what's what. And it's
Well, and
sort of
that's,
from having years of having, just listening to people, it's,
yes.
and
Like,
it's
I think that if
carry on.
I could open, it would be incredible to have like almost like a global academy. And this is me, I'm just constantly coming out with, random little ideas, but like a global academy to bring it back to basics or put it into, because what do you call it in the States with your education over there?
It's
Is it
the
the,
cosmetology school, cosmetology license, that type of idea. Yeah.
yeah. So if they could bring this aspect in, and that's something, because I have worked with salons in the US doing, it's actually, Salon Reset has taken off higher in the US than it has in Australia. And I've worked with over 30 to 40 salons here in Australia, but I'm finding that the US is really picking up on it and loving it. And which surprised me personally, because I've always thought Australia is a couple of months behind. But then I had to realize that business is business. We're behind in, trends and fashion and things like that. But when it comes to business, it's how you think
Yeah.
and how you want to push forward and how you can grow. So that was another learning curve for myself with this. And I suppose I'm so grateful the salons and the owners and the stylists, just you don't have to work with me if you don't own, like if you don't own a salon, it's for everyone. You could be an apprentice. I've worked with our local TAFE systems here doing the Salon Reset because it is bringing it back to basics. And I have been in contact with one of our media articles here in Australia, and I'm presenting at in June, I'm presenting the Salon Reset in education for one of our hair shows here. And, it really hit a spot for me where recently, obviously, Trevor Zorby passed away.
Yeah.
Extreme, that rattled our industry quite a lot. We felt it here. He was a dear friend of my dad. I had actually had a meeting with him quite a few years ago with my previous business, and he is the most, humble, beautiful man.
Yeah.
And I really dislike how all of those legends are remembered when they pass.
Yeah.
And so I put to this particular media article, why can't we bring them in whilst they're here? Why can't we showcase and have, it doesn't have to be a massive show, but for this future generation, you and I are used to working from their techniques and their books and everything like that. But yes, they're getting older. My dad is one of the hair care giants. Like, he is in the Hall of Fame for hairdressing and he's incredible. But this day and age, they're looking for the hair influencers. And it's like, but stop, because they learnt from these people. Bring
Exactly.
them back.
And the people that taught them learn from the others. You know, there is this thing that we need to, it's something that I've long thought we should be doing in the industry. We're becoming fast. I always think like a bit of a reality TV X Factor type of idea. Whereas,
Seriously.
whereas
Seriously.
you're always going to have the factions. I always try and put it in the music terminology. You've got like the really cool indie band, you know, that is sort of off doing what they're doing. Then got your X Factor type, and then you've got the person who you only know about if you know about it, and they've been doing it for years, but they're the best.
Yeah.
You know, and it is.
It's like the underground bars or the underground restaurants.
Exactly.
You know,
Some old jazz drummer who's been playing for 50 years.
Yeah.
That type of vibe,
Yeah.
you know, who's like everybody who knows what they're talking about says he's the boy. It's
Yeah.
like that's what
They
we
don't
need.
advertise themselves.
Exactly. It's not their thing. They don't need to. You know, they're too busy doing what they do. But it's something that we need to do is start to look back. I mean, you know, I would hate to imagine if you spoke to the average 18, 19, 20-year-old hairdresser, who's Vidal Sassoon? You know, I would hate to imagine what the numbers would be. You know, it would.
No, I can tell you that actually happened in my salon when I very first my apprentice.
Yeah.
I sat her down and I was like, all right, so we're going to go through, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to show you some incredible cuts for inspiration. I'm like, so you know Vidal Sassoon? And she's like, who? I was like, what have I done? And it was my hire as an owner. I was like, what have I done? Like, who the fuck have I hired? Like, okay. So I was just like, you're joking, aren't you? And then now her and I laugh about it because I have educated her on that. And she's like, I can't believe I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, exactly.
And right, you ask the younger generation, they have no idea.
Yeah, it's not even the awareness of the salon, of the brand, you know, let alone the man, you know, just the brand would, you know, and that would obviously open many other doors as well. But it's something that I think we should, maybe it's something we can do in the future. We'll work it out. Yeah. It'd be great to get those things then, to get it in a format where people can, people can, you know, still digest it, you know, as well. You know, whilst some of us would like sit there watching Robert Lebetta or Tim Hartley or someone sit for hours.
You get my juices flowing when you mention these names. It's like
we would sit there for hours, but maybe younger people might not be quite as interested.
And you've got like Angelo's seminar, like it's just insane. I still remember to this day, one of his photos is one of my favorite pieces of color, and it was when he was working with Davines. And it was one of the very first what's the word? It was, I'll have to find the photo and send it to you, and then put it on.
I'll put it in the
and it was a print, and it was almost like the first like holographic.
Yes, I know the one. It was all like geometric squares.
Yes. First time I was like, that is insane. And for me, that kicked off an editorial trend. Obviously, that's not a streetwear trend, but I was like, that is insane. And then you've got, you know, like Eugene Suleiman. And it's like, we need to start bringing back these and educating, even if it's not a class with them, but research, Google. They've got channels out there where they talk about their education and things like that. And that's really the inspiration behind the Salon Reset for me, is bringing it back to foundations, understanding where hairdressing came from and why it was such an important, you know, I still believe it's so important now, but I feel like it's lost that glamour to it.
No, absolutely. It's lost that, like exactly what you just said, that glamour, that, I mean, for want of a better phrase, class to it. You know,
100%.
that sort of thing. Where can people find out more about the Salon Reset and what you're getting up to, Lily?
So I've got Salon Resets available through our Instagram and on our website. The website is thesalonreset.com. I do offer Zooms. Obviously, if you're overseas, that's the best way to do it. If you're in Australia, I do in-salon training as well. And I do also offer shadowing programs. So another thing that, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just a sign up, pay, and I give you a template that I've given multiple other salons. I actually collect all your figures and your data and everything, and I personalize each program to where it needs to be and where I can see your growth. And even just something interesting, when I did it recently on my own business, I'm never shy about saying, with my own, because it's such an important thing. And I can show you this because it has shown me every now and then I go through my own figures and percentages. So this in itself, where is it? I've got all of it printed. And it was quite interesting when I showed this to a class, because I think not many educators are, forthcoming with their own business percentages and finances, but I don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
So this is mine. This is over 365 days of my retention and my rebooking with my staff.
Excellent numbers.
So you can, yeah. But from that's shown me that I can up my prices.
Yeah.
That's over 1 year.
Yeah.
So we're looking at what, 10 odd services, 10 to 12 services a year. A lot of the women come in for their weekly blow dries, but if I look at the retention, where, the lowest retention there is 88%, the lowest rebooking rate there is 70%, but we also offer online booking as well. So that's, for me, something that I'm now doing on my own business, because every now and then I actually do the Salon Reset on my own business.
Yeah.
So and
it's something you're practicing what you preach, which is the main thing.
100%. And I believe in it. The proof is there. I've got, statistics from salons of how much their figures have grown, the percentages, the retention. They're now needing to look for staff because they were in the position that I was in a couple of years ago, where they've got quite a large wait list. And it all did come back down to the experience and how the client felt in your chair. They're not just a number. They've come to you for a reason, and you need to show them why they need to come back. Create a plan for them. Don't just give them one service and say, all right, let's rebook your next hair color. Never sit down and say, are we doing just the same? If anyone said that to me, I'd walk out. I change my hair color frequently.
Yeah, find out what you want, find out what you need. But we put all your contact details in the show notes and whatnot there, Lily. Thank you very much for coming on. It's a pleasure.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been great chatting to you again.
Absolutely. Great speaking to you as well. Thank you very much, Lily.
Enjoy your evening. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.